All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for episode number 12 of Changemakers. We've got a great guest today, Jamie Pratt. Changemakers is a really cool show where we talk to people that are creating change in the communities around them, also creating change in the world and creating change in the country, doing the things that actually make America great, and what it means to essentially be a change maker and what it means to actually have a positive impact on the world around you. The cool thing is this, guys. This episode is going to be dealing a little bit with politics, and we're not used to dealing with politics on Changemakers. It's supposed to be apolitical, but the great part is this young gentleman does a lot with the Republican Party where he is from. He's also a radio show host, but his overriding message is all about coming together, uniting, and he's got a great initiative that he works on, as well as essentially just spreading a positive message for all political parties to come together. So this one is a pretty darn safe space for people to share this. If you have issues with political views and you don't want to share it. I'm telling you, this one will have a positive impact no matter if you are on the left, on the right, in the middle. It does not matter. It's an overriding theme of how we can make this country better. And as you get in here, make sure not only do you hit share, you hit the like, and also tell me where you're coming from in the box on the side. We'll get started in about 30 seconds. We got Chrissy Boyle, Nicole, as usual. Welcome. Hi, Donna. How are you doing as well? I'll give you guys some updates on Be the Change, as we like to do right before we get started. Keep sharing this out, and we will go ahead and get started with Changemakers right now. What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony Michael Russo from #BeTheChange. This is Changemakers. I hope you guys can all join us today. I know Cash has got PT coming on in a little bit, so that's going to be pretty exciting. So hopefully we'll be having that right as we get done over here. Make sure you share this episode out. We've got a really cool guest, young gentleman that's just very fun to talk to, and I'm looking forward to this episode. For those of you that have never seen Changemakers, this show is a little different than our political shows, our comedy shows, etc. This show is about people that are creating the change that they wish to see in the world. That is the whole point, being a change agent, a change maker, and sharing that kind of positivity. If you see on the Be the Change page, we share about one positive post a day that hopefully you can create change with. You can make it go viral. You can show people that there is positive news in this world and there's people doing good things in the world around them. So this is that kind of show. So I encourage you guys to share it. I see Donna making waves. Mary Sue, hello from Long Island. Scott, give me the thumbs up. I love it. Again, please do us a favor. Share this post. As you guys have seen between Cash and our videos, we don't get as many views as we used to get, even though we have more followers. I wonder why that is. Anywho, so please help us out by sharing this video. And again, if you're worried about sharing political stuff, even though this gentleman does a lot in politics, this is not going to be a political episode. So you'll still be safe and able to share it. And I know you guys will enjoy this as well. All right. I want to cover a little bit of things going on with Be the Change real fast. As a lot of you guys know, it is our Cyber Monday sale right now, which is going all the way through Friday. So if you want to know more about that, I'm going to throw this up there really quick. If you do Cyber Monday, all one word at your checkout, it's 20% off everything from the store, #BeTheChange.com. Click on the shop button. And on top of it, there's already items that have a bunch of money off as well. So there's some items that are like 40% off. So if you've been wanting to get something and want to spend way less than you have before until the items are out of what we currently have or until Friday night, that's how the sale is going. Also, please do us a favor. Follow us on our podcast. If you get to listen later, #BeTheChange.com/podcast. Let's see. And last but not least, I hope you guys liked Concert Avengers last night, by the way. That was hilarious. That is on the YouTube page. We do need to get up to 1,000 subscribers. We have a ton of subscribers on Facebook, not as many on YouTube, so we can use that help. So I'm going to really quick put this link up there, wherever it might be. I'll probably put it up on the Changemakers. Bum, bum, bum. There it is. So if you want to follow us on YouTube, please do us a favor. YouTube.com/C/Be the Change USA. That would help us greatly. And as always, later tonight, I'm going to be doing a special Patreon for a lot of you guys. We're going to be doing giveaways for our items. So I'm going to be doing trivia and fun stuff, talking a little bit about politics, talking about whatever people want to talk about for about an hour. That is 9:00 Central Time tonight on Zoom. But you have to be a Patreon member, and the Patreon information, and you have to be a $10 member, is below. It is patreon.com/Be the Change USA. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and get the show started. I'm going to leave that going throughout the show, just so you guys know if you want to help us out. Again, we self-fund everything with Be the Change and a lot of Cash's stuff. And I know you guys support him as well. Support us with the website, buying stuff, etc. But yeah, we are self-funded. So thank you guys for that. With no further ado, it's time to introduce our guest. And I'm very excited about this. This gentleman and I started following him on Facebook, some of the stuff that he does, the initiatives that he had as well, and the change that he was putting out into the world was very exciting at a very young age. So we're going to get him to tell a little bit of his story, and we'll go through it. But again, I'm going to say this probably, hopefully, for the last time. We don't typically talk politics on Changemakers, but sometimes when you're doing positive things in politics, whether you're on the left or on the right, it's important to talk about it. And that shows that we truly can bridge the gap, bridge the divide, and unite people from a place that is typically dividing us lately. So our guest name is Jamie Pratt. He has a morning show. He's the host of it called The Jamie Pratt Show on WJJM 94.3 FM out of Lewisburg, Tennessee. He's a political activist, and his community serves on a variety of committees in the state. And he was even honored to work on a campaign this last year with State Representative Elect Todd Warner. He was the treasurer for the campaign. It's a good friend of his as well. He's got a lot of positive things going on and an initiative that I can't wait for him to share with you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Pratt.
What's up?
How's it going, Jamie? How you doing?
It's going great. Of course, I'm in Tennessee. You know, the weather changes. We had snow on the ground yesterday. The sun was out shining today. So, hey, we're just living the dream.
That's my line. You can't still live in the dream. So as we get going with this, if you guys have some questions for Jamie in the box, go ahead and ask it. But we're going to get started. And I'm going to have Jamie tell a little bit about his background. Even I actually don't know exactly how old you are. So your actual age and what you've been a part of in the last couple of years on a political level.
Yeah, so I'll start off again. My name is Jamie Pratt. I'm 20 years old. Shocks a lot of people when they hear a radio DJ that's 20 years old. But I live in a small town in Chapel Hill, Tennessee. A great community. I'm blessed to have parents who are from around here. My dad was actually one county over, about 10 minutes from where we live now. But I graduated high school in 2018, did a year at Columbia State, which is a small community college around Middle Tennessee. And then I also joined my father at work at the funeral home in town. He has been working at the funeral home close to 30 years now. And he's actually just start of the year, just became part owner of that funeral home. So I worked with him for a little bit. And then a radio position came open. I actually do the play-by-play. I'm the voice of our football team here in Chapel Hill, the Forest Rockets. I'm the voice of the Rocket football program. Been doing that for 3 years, and then the radio opportunity came up, and I took advantage of it. And actually, 2 weeks from today, I will officially been there 1 year. So it's been a lot of fun on the Jamie Pratt Show. And then I got, of course, like you mentioned, I got involved into a political campaign. I've always had a love for politics, but it's really grown. I guess you could say in 2016 when I saw different candidates bring different ideas, and it really inspired me to get involved and pay close attention, because many people say, well, you're young, you shouldn't be that concerned. Well, my future lies in the states of those elected officials now. So I have to be paying close attention now. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And go ahead with anything else you need me to spit out.
No, that's awesome. So what is your morning show about?
So basically, I play top 40. Of course, we are in Christmas time, so I play the top 40 in country music. We see a variety of, I guess you could say, people with interesting backgrounds come into the studios. I don't know if many people are familiar. They're kind of a small rising band known as Chapel Heart. They're based out of Louisiana. They got their first radio start through my show. And since then, they've taken off big time. So I have close to around 25 to 30,000 listeners during my 7 o'clock newscast, which is local news, where we read the local obits. We just kind of keep people's attention geared toward the things going on locally around. But it's a big audience, and you don't want to screw up, because people remember you by that one screw up that you have, not by the 50 great things that you do.
Yeah. So since you say that, so I've been an MC and host for a decade. So I'll tell my big screw ups, because that's a funny thing you say that, because there was about 25,000 people there, and I was interviewing David Price, the baseball player, because I do the College World Series. I'm the MC and host, and I made one of the biggest mistakes. Okay, it was the biggest mistake I'd ever made. I did my research. I had a 2-minute interview with him, and I ended up asking him a question that seemed innocuous. It seemed like it was no big deal. And I just asked, it's a lot of these players, and it was like the last 30 seconds of this interview. It's a lot of these players' last game on the field. And what I wanted to say is, what kind of message can you pass on to them about their futures or whatever, which was probably too vague anyways. But I instead turned and said, can you tell us anything that you remember from your last game? And I knew that in college, he was one of the best college baseball players in all of the NCAA. And I saw that he was 11-1. What you can't read between the lines is that one was actually his last game of college baseball, when he came in relief in the super regionals against Michigan and gave up a walk-off home run. Needless to say, 6'4" David Price looked at me, and I'm 6'2", towering over me in the Vanderbilt section, getting boos from everywhere. And he was just standing on top of me going live on the Jumbotron, did you just ask me that question? I immediately knew I screw up. So yes, 500 things that you can do right. You don't want to make a mistake when that many people are watching. That is very, very true.
Yes.
So with that
exactly
said,
right.
So do you talk politics at all on your show, or is it only more of a top 40 type thing?
So we have a program on Fridays when our local General Assembly is in session. They will come in, and what we like to call it a political update, where they advise us on the different bills that had been ran through the General Assembly this year. Of course, this year being my first year that I was on the show, and I had the candidate come in, of course, it was weird because they were in session for 2 months. They had to stop because of COVID. They went back into session during the campaign season. They had to go back into session. And so the candidate that was serving as the state representative, it was kind of hard for us to make ends meet on a Friday for him to come in, but he still made the time. And they just go over the bills that they've passed, what he has come up with, ideas such as maybe giving a small business grant to the small businesses around the area. We would talk about that. So I try to steer more toward the country music, because when you get into the world of politics, it can get very nasty when you start having those things come on your show. And I also, I was going to begin my own show on YouTube, but we ran into some bumps and curves with being muted, I guess you would say is the appropriate term, big tech muting us. And so I was unable to upload a lot of videos that I'd already had out. So it is what it is. I mean, we're battling each day with the different things that come up.
Yeah. So again, for people that are just joining, we don't typically do politics on Change Makers. You've seen plenty of politics, obviously, with Truth Will Set You Free and now Conservengers. But what's cool about Jamie is he's got and if you follow his YouTube page, or I'm sorry, his Facebook page, you'll see that he's got some really great messages as young conservative. And he just talked about being 16 years old and getting involved in politics. And people said, why do you care so much? Which is mind-boggling that people say that. It drives me nuts. And part of the problem is that we see in terms of a lot of the fights we have is not because somebody feels differently. It's because they feel that they are right 100%. And it is a lot of it is a media base. And a lot of it is that lack of education. And there's only so much education you can get from the headlines. But Jamie, you brought up something super interesting. You talked a lot about local politics. Mm-hmm. What is it? And a lot of people we think about, well, Biden or Trump, but local politics really are what affects our daily life. Is there a way you could explain that possibly?
Yeah. So basically, I always tell people when they ask, how exactly do you get involved in local politics? Well, I'll tell you, when they have a meeting, show up. Be alert, be tentative to what they're saying, be tentative to what they're passing. I attend, like I said, I live in a small town. There's roughly 1,000 people that live inside the city limits. But if you branch outside, you're going to get close to probably 10,000 around the area. That may be a stretch, but still, you have to be involved. You have to pay attention. And so I attend these meetings. There's a total of, I'm going to probably lie and screw this up, but I think there's a total of 8 aldermen. Like I said, I could be wrong on that. I haven't really counted them all up.
You're already more accurate than CNN and Fox combined. You're good.
Well, that's all that matters. No. And the sad thing is, it's me and 2 other people that show up. And so when people say, well, how do you know what's going on? It's because I'm alert. I'm there. I want people to understand that it's important that you show up and you pay close attention to the bills they're passing, because like a tax increase, a town where our radio station is, they've been into some financial trouble. They had to borrow money from the state of Tennessee, and now they're having to pay it back. Well, they've been trying to come up with ways to make it a little bit better where they're not constantly throwing taxes at you, but it's not working because the people want to get these people that are elected out because they put them in the financial trouble. So I say all that to say, pay attention to what your people that you elect are doing, because it's important that you recognize they are representing you. If you don't want that and they go and vote the opposite of what you don't want, don't put them back in. That's kind of my main goal to people, is pay attention to their voting base, because it does not matter what's going to happen in the big world of politics, what Trump or what Biden or what whomever sitting up in Washington says it's going to control your area around town. You have to understand that you are there to make the change. And that's why when you asked me if I'd be a part of this and I saw the hashtag Be the Change, you really opened my mind just with that hashtag alone for people to understand you can make that change if you will be the change.
Exactly. And now I want to, speaking of hashtags, I kind of want to get into the real true change maker part of the show. And this is actually where I found some of your videos. Is you had a hashtag that you started, Operation Unite America. So tell a little bit about the background on that, how you started it, and what your mission is.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want people to really pay attention. Yes, mother's listening. I want to make sure everyone understands this. We live in a world that we are extremely, extremely blessed. That's across any country you live in. We have the opportunity to see other people. We have not been to any other planet to determine if there's life there or not. So with that being said, we have to understand we are fortunate that we can come together as a universe, but more importantly, come together as a country right now. We see turmoil, back and forth, yelling, screaming, this party this party that. We have to stop that. We are Americans. We are to put America first. So when I come up with the idea, Operation Unite America, that's an idea for us to bring each other together across the nation. You see behind me here, look what's behind me here. We've got a Christmas tree. So with that being said, it's the holiday season. We need to come together during this holiday season and really, really encourage those people who may not be as fortunate as us. We should really help them out. And so this hashtag is important to me because I've always been someone who wants to give and not receive. My parents have taught me one thing in life. It's you serve others, and in return, they'll serve you. And that's so true. My dad, like I mentioned, he's been in the funeral service for close to 30 years now. My dad has served over thousands of families, if we're being honest. That may be a stretch, but still, he has served a lot of families. They all have different backgrounds. I've learned one thing: don't judge a book by its cover. With that being said, we're coming into a holiday season. We're not always promised tomorrow. We're to take advantage of what we have today, come together, put a smile on our face, regardless of what political background they have. Smile and be there for someone. It's important to be that light in someone's life.
And what's great is you are first off, you're incredibly engaging and you're young. You have a ton of information, not only just about politics, but you're well-rounded. You like sports, you like all these different things. And as a Christian, and it's almost like there's a war on Christianity as a part of this division that we have right now. And I think that, and part of it, I always believe in cause and effect. And I think there might have been an era where the quote unquote Bible thumping Christians might have scared some people off or scared their children off. And I think we might be seeing the results of that right now in some levels, people breaking from the church. But right now it's like this grouping that there is a division so far between the Christian conservative and the liberal that also sometimes can be Christian, but not as often, obviously, or the Democrat that can be Christian. How do you see it from a young perspective and the young people around you? How do you see us breaking down that barrier that's become so high?
So for me, I've learned one thing, like you mentioned, being young and being involved in politics, is you know who your enemies are, and you know who the people who they don't see the same way you do in politics, but they still want to be your friend. And so what I remind people is we have to understand that we're here for one purpose in this world. That's to serve Christ. That's to be that shining light. And so how do you break down that barrier? Well, you start off with, first off, always put a smile on your face. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're an independent, if you belong to any party, put a smile on your face. Because when you put a smile on your face, that automatically wipes away your party affiliation. Nobody cares at that point. Next thing you do, you step up. You be a person that you're more than welcome to have someone come in, lean on your shoulder. You tell them how you feel, because if we don't do that, we're not going to break down this barrier, because the barrier itself is what is causing this division. We can't see across that barrier. All we see is a big, huge wall that comes up in front of us, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you hit low, it's kind of like the football analogy. If you hit low, you'll take it out every time. So hit that wall low, knock it down, put a smile on your face, be there for someone, give them a hug. Just serve. That's my goal for people all the time. And the way I end my show is I always tell people to have a great day, put a smile on your face, and just serve. That's the key.
So it's funny. The first show we had, this is I think episode 12. We had Daryl Davis. And if you ever heard of Daryl Davis, he is a gentleman that got very large black guy that has for the last 30 years, 40 years infiltrated essentially the Ku Klux Klan. And he's met them where they are, essentially, and befriended them in a very odd way just by being kind and showing character. And your message is exactly the same. And it's very interesting because the concept is this. It's like we're at a place in this world where we are just yelling at each other, in this country specifically. And that doesn't do anything. That's not gonna change anybody's mind. So it's the same as, back, and again, that whole maybe era of Christianity where we were yelling like, "You heathen, you're going to hell," and all these different things. It's very rare to find somebody go like, "Oh man, he's talking to me. I know I got to make a change." Like mostly it's just going to get people's defenses up because we're humans. And again, that's not knocking out the wall at the bottom. That's just trying to hit bricks at the top. It's pointless, like you just said. So with Daryl Davis, the same type thing is you have to show kindness over time. Show it in your actions, show it in your soul, show it in your spirit, and serve people until they can actually see your heart. And then we come together. But the whole concept of yelling now in the other direction, which is, somebody maybe isn't racist and is a conservative, and you yell at them that they're a racist and a terrible person just because of their party affiliation, that's not going to change anything. It's just going to make people more angry. So again, across the board, from a Christianity perspective, from a political perspective, it's all about serving others, being kind, and then all of a sudden politics disappear, and then we just have basic policy disagreements, and that's ultimately what makes us better. But I love the way you describe that. So thank you for that. How did you get it? What I know you said when you were 16, you started getting interested. What all of a sudden was like the tipping point where you said, all right, I want to get into politics?
So obviously you can't watch the news and not get mad. I mean, let's be honest. And so I was watching one of the first presidential debates between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And my mother and father always said, listen to both sides, be quiet, respect what they have to say, and then move forward. So we got to watching TV, and I just heard a lot of yelling, screaming, and I was like, out of the millions of people we have in the United States, we have come down to these two people. I don't understand. And I said that we've got to make a change. We've got to do something. And so I got more engaged. I looked up different political candidates. I went all the way back to when we had Eisenhower. When I went back to JFK, I like George Bush, Ronald Reagan. I went back and I researched these people because I said, surely they didn't act like this. And I just dug into people's past. I wanted to see how they changed themselves and how they really, really made something of themselves. And so when I researched Eisenhower, again, you don't always get the positive things when you look up someone's name. You're going to see the negative things that he did. So I saw a few of the negatives, but I said, he's got a lot bigger list of positive things that he did. So I said, okay, let's check Bush out. So I went to Bush Sr. I studied him, saw what he had to offer. Again, that list of good things outweighed the bad. So as you look at the different candidates, I began to see they made a positive influence. Jimmy Carter, he amazes me how, first off, the man's still trying to continue to make his presence known and help out the best he can. But it's the fact that all these former presidents can come together and really push those ideas to help put America first. That just, it fascinated me. And so as I watched the second debate, I said, I'm going to go in here neutral again. As I watched, the yelling seemed to calm down. They started to express their ideas. I began to research both candidates. And from that point on, I've just had a spark. I've looked up Chuck Schumer is a prime example. I enjoy listening to Chuck Schumer bring forth ideas. As a conservative, people say, well, why do you do that? Why do you listen to him? I enjoy it because he's bringing an idea from a different perspective. That's what life is. We don't all see the same Christmas tree the same way. We don't see this tree different ways. Many people you see over here where I've got this Tennessee ornament. I'm not a Tennessee fan. I'm a Florida fan. That's my mom's. The first thing that people see in that tree that live in Tennessee, they see that ornament and think, oh, okay, well, this is a Tennessee house. That's just, to me, you have to research the candidates to find what you truly love about politics. And so that's what I did. A lot of research and a lot of getting yelled at and screamed at. And since my mother's listening, I'm gonna get on to her because I can. She's in the other room. But I can't watch TV with her in the house. She tells me to go away. She says, you get too mad. You don't need to be watching the news. So I have to come out here to the sunroom where I'm at, put on the news, and I can watch about 5 minutes and that's it because my blood pressure's out the roof. And she's like, I don't know why you do that to yourself.
To educate. It makes sense. And then, a lot of people say the same. And I get, as a conservative myself, people look at me and they're like, you must only watch one side of the news. And I'm like, no, I watch. And honestly, now, is that a common misconception of left or right? Like, oh, you're a liberal, you must only watch CNN, or, oh, you're a conservative, you must only watch Fox News. I watch both. Couple things, because somewhere in the middle is the truth. That's always one thing. Sometimes they're both completely off. But another thought process is just like Art of War or anything you read on negotiation or debate, you have to know thy enemy and you have to know the other topic because you have to challenge it, just like science too. You have to challenge the hypothesis. You have to challenge the results. So if you hear something that doesn't ring true or ring right to you, then you push yourself to learn more. And it's interesting what you said, because I've had some conversations, as we all have recently, whether you're on the left or the right, if you're willing to talk about politics. And a common thing that I get is, I'll listen to what you have to say. It's not going to change my mind. which is the most frustrating thing on the planet. First off, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I'm trying to educate people to what I know, to my knowledge base, and then to educate them and motivate them to go do some more research on their own. Because reading a headline on Business Insider or The Hill or even CNN or Fox isn't going to educate you anymore. You have to go deeper. And honestly, the fact checks are actually great. People hate the fact checkers. Not the actual descriptions at the top that say true or false, but down below it, they do actually very good research in there, and it completely contradicts whether they think it's true or false, because they're allowed to do that because they're completely unchecked by the government. But it's all about gathering information and gathering your own personal beliefs. So I really like the way that you describe that. And it is great because if you look at your page, and we'll throw up whatever what you want to kind of advertise about yourself. But if you watch your stuff, you are so incredibly balanced, which we don't see that enough of in terms of politics. I will be totally honest. I don't see very rarely ever a balance from the left. I don't see a ton of balance from the right either. So, people like you and I are very, very balanced in our opinions. And I love the fact that you continue to educate yourself on even people like Chuck Schumer, which drive me absolutely nuts. But you're right. There is some things they do right. They don't have their jobs for no reason or their elected positions. They've done something, not a ton, but something right to get to where they are. All right. So that was great. And I love your description. So to teach people a little bit more about politics, which is also part of creating change, is understanding the system. You just got involved in Todd Warner's campaign. Tell us a little bit about the last campaign season for you with Todd Warner.
Yeah. So first off, I want to brag about the shirt here that I am wearing. Todd is I'll stand back up so everybody can see it. There you go. Todd is a great guy. He's a good friend of mine. His youngest son, same grade as my sister. So we've always had a connection with the Warner family. I graduated with one of his nieces. The Warner family is a big family. But the one good thing about Todd is he has a passion for serving. Todd was actually a Chapel Hill City alderman back close to 20 years ago, give or take. And he wanted to get back into the world of politics because he wanted to make a change. And the one thing that I can say about Todd that he was one step ahead of all the other candidates is he's a farmer. He's a small businessman. He's big into the church. He wants to make sure that all these principles are put forward and put first. He wants to make sure that the people sit back, they don't worry, they don't stress about how he's going to vote when it comes to pressing bills. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Tennessee was put on the hot seat a couple of months ago about the abortion bill, and that was a very, very, very sensitive subject to the 92nd district that Todd now serves. They were very emotional, very sincere with how they wanted to go and how they wanted to pursue that vote. And so Todd, when we were out campaigning, we knocked over 10,000 doors across the 92nd district, which is a lot for people to knock. And so my role, of course, was treasurer for the campaign. Excuse me, was treasurer for the campaign. And that's always very, very on the fence because money is always going to be one of the front things that the other candidates look at when it comes to whether they win or lose. They're going straight for the money. And so I laid out a huge financial report as soon as Todd got elected, called up the state treasury department. We went through, we filled out the financial sheet. We had it sent over. It was publicized. People saw how much we had spent. And the one thing that I have learned with working through Todd is when you're going to cover a big district, we cover over 4 counties. They're good sized districts. I learned that money is going to be something that you better have growing on a tree because you're going to be on the road a lot. You're going to have a lot of handouts, a lot of mail outs. And we actually were able to advertise ourselves on TV a little bit. But my role in Todd's campaign was simple. Young, I have a voice that can be heard. People listen, and I'm appreciative of that. I'm glad people take the opportunity to sit back, understand where I'm coming from, understand my background, understand that I really want to put someone in office who's going to help me as a young person grow, who's going to take care of me when it comes to, if for some reason the Second Amendment bill comes up here in Tennessee. Todd has made it clear our guns will not be taken away. He's going to fight for the Second Amendment. We won't close churches down again. We made that mistake once. We won't do it again. Churches physically cannot afford to do that. They will put in appropriate precautions. He said, we will make sure that if a mask is something that needs to be mandated, we will mandate it. But thankfully, the virus itself around here is not incredibly bad. It's not taken off. The mortality rate has gone down tremendously in the state of Tennessee. So that's been a plus. And Todd is just ready to work for the people. He's ready to put forth his ideas. He's ready to sit back and listen to what you have to say. And that was the whole key through the 92nd district. They felt their voice had been lost. They felt that they couldn't go and approach the former state representative and tell him what was going on because he backstabbed them, and they didn't like that. It upset them. And so Todd, when he threw his name in the hat, from day one, we took off and we didn't look back. And we actually ended up winning by over 5,000 votes.
And what was the percentage on that one?
It was, I believe we had 78% of the votes in the 92nd district. So awesome. we swept big.
Congrats. That's awesome. Well done. So how long had the incumbent been in on that one?
So he has served 2 terms, which is a total of 4 years here in the state of Tennessee. If you're elected to be state representative, you have a 2-year term. And then, of course, then it's campaign season. You're back at it again. And he's done a good job. I mean, our former state representative, Rick Tillis, did a great job. He always had the trust of the people until this past year, when certain hot topics come up with teachers, the gas tax for the state of Tennessee, different things came up, and he just backstabbed the 92nd district, and they didn't like that. So,
yeah. What's interesting is people think they know. They're like, I know what's going on. People aren't looking at the little things like how a gas tax and like there's so much local issues that people forget about. And again, that is a reason to sometimes vote Democrat, a reason to sometimes vote conservative. There are certain people, and there's a lot of Democrats that sometimes have conservative ideals, and that's why people pay attention to those and they figure out what fits them the best. And a lot of times people that think they know, they really just know a little bit about the headlines, which again is where you're just dangerous enough type situation, unfortunately. This is a great question because I was going to ask it because you said, he is. When is it going to be? I feel. So what are your goals in politics, if you have any? What's your future goals?
Yeah. So actually, I have been approached by the city alderman for the town of Chapel Hill to serve as the mayor of Chapel Hill. Now, with that being said, you have to be 21 to do that. Of course, my birthday. Many people are going to laugh when they hear this because it always catches the eye. My birthday is April 20th, which is 4/20, which is National Weed Day. And that gets brought up a lot around me. And no, I've never partaken in that holiday and probably will never do that. I can tell you I won't do that. But I look to get involved in our local politics pretty swiftly after I turn 21. So my first goal in politics will be, I want to be a voice for people. I feel that, of course, me and Todd's going to see eye to eye on this, but we feel that specifically the voice has been lost. And so I want to be a voice where the young people can come to me and say, I believe this is something that needs to be addressed and taken a look at. Will you please do it? And so I want to be able to relate to the young people and be that voice for them. My next goal in politics is I want to be involved. I feel that when people get elected, they don't want to go and be seen in public. They don't want to participate unless it's a big event that's occurring. So I want to be more involved. I want to be at the Veterans Day ceremonies that's occurred across the 92nd district or whomever or wherever it may be. I want to be more involved in the different activities that the schools put on. I want to be more involved in the youth events that's put on. I really want to promote the youth to go and better themselves. The third and final goal that I have is I want to be someone who has the trust of the public. I want the public to know that they can come and express their ideas to me, and they will stick with me. I will sincerely think about them. I will go and vote on what they want me to do, and they can have my trust when they go to the Capitol. They can have my trust that I will take care of them.
That's awesome. And I think that over time you might look past your district just alone. So do you foresee yourself as a life in politics? Like, do you think politics is probably going to be what your career is?
So I don't know if my girlfriend's watching or not, and she's probably going to get mad when I say this. We've had several conversations about it, and she's good with it. But I have an ultimate plan, and I'm glad you've invited me on this show because I think it's good for me to get my name out. But I will run for president one day. I'm going to make that a goal and a mission. I want to really, really, again, be that voice for the people, because people around here keep telling me, you just keep doing what you're doing and you're going to go far. So I'm going to do my best to take a shot at being president of the United States. And I hope that it works. And I won't forget you if I get there. I'll have to have you come to the White House.
I could be in the cabinet. I could be some kind of advisor. And
I like that.
And if I don't do my job, fire me. That's fine. That's the whole point of That's the whole point of, getting a job in the cabinet. You got to make sure you're doing your job. It's not a sign of a conspiracy when people get fired from the cabinet. I like people to know that. That means that they've learned that they can't do the job. Anyways, totally different subject. So I think the growth in politics is definitely, you speak the game, you're good at it, and your overall mission is also to help people and be a voice for people, which is the whole point of politics. So well said, well spoken. I have two more questions before we go. And okay. Nicole asked this, and honestly, for a show that we don't want to talk too much about politics, it is a political show, and you also have a way of crafting your words that don't make it a dangerous political subject. So I think you're going to have an interesting take on this. What are your views on what's going on right now with the election? If it's too political, I understand, but I don't think it will be. What's your current views? You have a pretty grounded perspective.
So that's a frequent question that I get asked on a regular basis, and I'm going to try not to step too far one way, but there has been evidence of voter fraud. Do I think Trump is throwing a fit now? No, I think Trump is trying to prove a point. There has been, in previous elections, there has been voter fraud. This goes back to the Obama administration. There was voter fraud even then when it came out to Mitt Romney and John McCain when they all ran. So he's just trying to bring up this idea that we've got to do something with the election fraud. It's not that he's throwing a fit that he hasn't won, because I don't think this is the last we'll see of Donald Trump, but I don't know that. And so I think that he's not upset that he lost. He's upset that voter fraud has taken over the American elections. So that's where I stand on that. I probably won't go into any more detail because I don't want to insert my foot and offend anyone that's watching. Because again, I don't want to pick a side, but I think people can see where I'm going with that. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
And one of the biggest things, and again, this will be where we end this conversation, is a lot of the division that we're seeing right now is based on not just misinformation, but lack of information. And people are, whatever is their target news, they see it and they believe it. There's people that will watch something on, an alternative right side and say, Trump is going to be the president. We don't know that. And then people watch on the other side and they'll see that 100% there is no evidence of voter fraud, and they'll flip the words, and then they'll go, anybody that thinks otherwise is horrible. They're idiots. They're terrible. And that's creating so much issues. The fact is, as I said earlier, there is a middle ground, and there is definite election fraud, which has been going on even well before Obama, as you said. And we just want to investigate. And Trump doesn't always verbally say things that please the way people look at it. But ultimately, it's just, and this is part of change makers, let's just chill out. Let's let people feel as though, with good reason, that the election was not done correctly. And then people feel like, Biden won. We could feel both these ways and still be friends. We could still unite. I have a last question if anybody doesn't come up. We need honest voting. That's ultimate. Like, we're in one of the most developed countries in the world, and our voting system is straight from 1972. It's absolutely appalling. So hopefully when you run for president, we'll have a fair election system.
Yes.
Maybe something on blockchain or something along those lines, which I don't even trust either. So anyways, different story. What was I? Oh, so let's get into your actual beliefs on politics. You're a conservative, and this is like a pitch. What is your pitch on why you're a conservative and why you think that is a positive look at creating change?
So if you can't see, I am a big Christian. I believe that Christian values should be a number one priority in my life, in anyone's life. And if you look at previous voting records on majority of the candidates that are sitting in office right now in Washington, the reason I lean conservative is because they protect the right to the unborn. They protect the Second Amendment. They put the values of the American people first. They want to pass and create bills that will help the average American citizen. Do I see that happening a lot in the other party? Not as much. You do have those candidates who are the moderate Democrats that do believe that this is the best for the American dream. There's also conservatives who see the left. They believe the left is right in a lot of ways. We learned when it came down to this previous impeachment on Trump, we learned that there was conservatives that felt he was worthy of being impeached. And so they voted with the left. I honestly, I don't think the left is out to hurt us, but I do think the left has a strategy. And I think they're actually playing a chess game with the conservatives in the U.S. because someone brought this up to me and it makes a lot of sense. Think about this. The left are thinking two steps ahead of you. They're thinking, okay, if I create this crazy, insane bill, they're not going to give me everything I want, but they're going to give me something out of it because they're going to want us to side with them on something. So they are playing a game with us. And I think that me as a 20-year-old, if I can see that, surely everyone else can see that. So next time you go and watch the people vote, your candidates vote up in Washington, I want you to pay close attention to that. When they bring up these insane bills, I want you to see what gets voted on because it's important that you see Republicans will side with them on majority of the stuff that the left have to do, knowing they're going to have to get the left to vote with them on certain things. So just keep your eye out on that.
Which is, I mean, and this is, if there's a silver lining in Biden, whatever that might be, is he actually, although he does not have a huge track record in politics, if he does end up becoming the president, he actually has had he's had a decent history of having bipartisan bills passed. So if there's one positive thing, that could possibly be it. Don't change when you get in office. And I have a feeling that you're probably going to be the mayor of Chapel Hill soon enough. Is this the page you would like for me to share with everybody?
Yeah.
All right, cool. It is in the comment box on both the YouTube as well as the Facebook if you want to follow Jamie. Jamie, is there? I don't have any other questions for you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? What you got going on? If not, I'll have you say a few final words.
Yeah. Basically, I'll go ahead and shoot into the final word part. I just want to say thank you for reaching out to me and offering me this opportunity to speak out on behalf of what it's like being young and involved in politics. Hashtag Operation Unite America. And for those of you that's watching, whatever source you're watching on, make sure to follow me. I encourage you to jump on the train with Jamie and let's just have fun. Let's really dig into what's going on in the world today, because it's important that we all step up and begin to make changes, because if we don't make the change, it's not going to happen. We are humans. We communicate through language. That's what we need to be using here, because I think people forget we're not down here to pitch a fit and brag about the riches that we have. It's important that we spend time with the people that we love the most. It's important that we serve. It's important that we be a voice to those who really need it. And so I encourage you to just be engaged in what's going on. And again, allow me hopefully one day to be your voice and serve you in the capacity as President of the United States.
I love it. You got that down 100%. No doubt about it. I'm going to wrap the show right here, guys. Thank you guys for joining. As again, please help us out. Support us on Patreon. I am starting to. We have grown to 16,000 followers without spending any money on advertising. But as you can see, our views are down, and we all know what that's for. So we're talking about scratching some backs, whether it be YouTube or Facebook as well, and actually spending a little bit of money on advertising, see if that kicks our algorithm up. On top of it, we have our podcast, as a lot of you guys know, and we would love any support that you guys can do. The Patreon is on the bottom. Tonight, again, for anybody in the $10 a month and up category, we'll be having trivia for free stuff like hats and sweaters and t-shirts and stuff like that. So make sure you join if you want to join tonight. I also on Patreon, I do motivational Mondays that only the Patreons get. Sometimes I do Getting Over the Hump Wednesdays if we have time for it. And also this weekend, any Patreon, any level, $5 is where it starts. I'm going to be doing like an auction with a bunch of extra Be the Change gear. So if you want to get it then, it'll all start at shipping, and then it'll go up $1 increments on everything. So you can get stuff for like $6, $7, $8, $9. So that's all I got for you guys. The whole point, again, of Change Makers is finding people that are creating change in this world. I know we got another episode coming up next week. And the next week after, we've got really cool guests coming up to finish off 2020. I was about to say 2021. Would love to skip ahead, but we still got a couple weeks left in this month, and I encourage you guys to find somebody, smile like Jamie said, find somebody that you can help around the holidays. That's Jamie's big mission too, with Uniting America and with the whole just Christian ideal. This is a very tough year. It's a tough time for a lot of people, and the holidays typically don't make it any better. We always call it the season of joy and happiness, but when things are going bad, there is no worse season than the holidays. And if you could brighten somebody's day, brighten somebody's life, find a way to get involved in that, now is the time to shine. Now is the time that you can be the change that you wish to see in the world. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave you. Jamie, one last question. Who do you think is going to end up being president?
I'm afraid it's going to be Joe Biden, but that's okay. We'll bear through it. I have faith that Biden will do what's best for America.
Hey, you heard it there. Cash will disagree with you. I honestly have no idea what's happening. So cool. Thank you guys so much. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Jamie, thank you again.
Thanks.